Hey everybody, we just finished our second session and we're going to talk about it in today's video, so let's dig in. Welcome back everybody. So we've wrapped up session number 2. It went pretty well, but before we talk about what actually happened, let's talk about what went well during our session. My party seems to still be really engaged in the setting and finding out as much as they can about what is going on here. They're very invested in figuring out what's going on with the everlasting winter and really trying to figure out kind of the dynamics of the entire region, which is pretty fun for me to watch them dig into. My party this time has been really engaged in roleplay. I think we talked about that in our last video. It still stands true. I've been really impressed and it's been a lot of fun. What could be better? One thing that I need to do better is prepare for Quark wanting to make deals with literally everybody he meets. He warned me, my player did beforehand, that this was going to be his character. I just needed to prepare for it a little bit better. Not to say that things have gone super horribly, but I think I could do a better job there to make my player feel more engaged. So let's talk about what actually happened. So we picked up where we left off last time in the middle of a battle. Jack had just been downed by one of the goblins. They were waiting around the corner and shot him as he came around the corner and knocked him down. We picked back up from there. Quark, I think, was next in the turn order and just healed Jack immediately, got him back up, and then it took 2 rounds for my party to clear out the remaining goblins. And I was kind of on the fence about whether or not I wanted the big wagon with the goblin boss to head into the fight or to go away. I decided I'd have them go away and run away for now. During our first session, my players' rolls to hit were just real bad. So they didn't seem to do very much damage at all, and then complete 180 this time around. Everybody's rolls seemed to be really good, so it's kind of fun to see that back and forth a little bit. And everything seemed to hit, and they knocked out and cleared out the rest of the goblins pretty quick. They did end up hog-tying one of the goblins that was put to sleep and then knocked unconscious. Woke him up, decided to question him about what was going on, and he also, Quark was the one that did this. He hog-tied him. He also ended up talking to this goblin many times about trying to strike a deal and get the best gold he could for the goblin, when in reality Quark's just looking out for making money himself. So once all the goblins were taken care of, they spent some time looking through the sled. Jack specifically looked through the sled. He found the iron ingots with the foaming mug symbol of clan battle hammer and 2 potions that he didn't identify. Those are the 2 potions of animal friendship that are supposed to be in the goblin boss's thing, but whatever, I like to give my party their treasures. There they are. After all of that, they got their gear together and decided they'd all push the sled, and they found the tracks for the goblin boss's wagon and decided that they probably couldn't keep up, so they just decided to head back to Brynn Shander rather than follow the tracks, which are going in slightly different directions. Kaima used her shape water spell to help move the sled along a little bit easier. She basically just turned it into ice in front of the sled so that they could just push it along the ice rather than trudge through snow, which I thought was pretty creative and I was okay with. I think it's a cantrip or something like that, and it's not like gonna drastically change their speed or anything, but it was kind of a fun flavor thing. That night, they did the same thing they did the previous night, where they built a little snow cave, and Quark led the negotiations with the goblin, who he kept calling Gobby. They had some back and forth quite a bit. Gobby wasn't as helpful, I think, as they were hoping. Quark was willing to give him an ingot or 2 that they had found on the sled in order to get Gobby to help them. And the rest of the party's like, I don't think we want to just let him go with some of the stuff we're supposed to be returning. And eventually they convinced Quark that wasn't a good idea. But basically, Quark's idea is he's going to set up this racket where the goblins are going to protect any of the sleds that come from clan Battlehammer to the cities of 10 towns, and in doing so, they are going to get a portion of the profits, and he's going to try and get that set up. So he talked to the goblin, Gobby, into that. However, Gobby is kind of low on the totem pole, and he was like, I can't promise anything, just let me go and I'll talk to everybody. He's really just trying to get them to let him go. The party held on to him through the night, and they had their various watches, where again we saw the aurora. Eventually, the party takes Gobby and the sled all the way back to Brynn Shander, where they meet with Garn and the rest of the dwarves, and they have a conversation there, basically just outlining the same things that Quark had talked about already. Just they accepted their reward, and Gobby agreed that he would try and get the goblin boss to meet them in some sort of neutral ground so that they can talk more about this transaction. And Quark's like, yeah, here's my fee, whatever, for getting this set up. So party didn't really trust Gobby, but Quark did give him some gold, kind of as a good faith thing, and said there's plenty more where that came from if you're able to get things worked out. So they let him go, and as fast as he could, the goblin was out of there. Boom, gone. So let's go back a little bit in time now to back when they're at the snow cave in the middle of the night. After they have all the conversation with Gobby, they all fall asleep, and at midnight, Jack has a dream, and we talked about this in our last prep video, but he found himself near a circular lake that was surrounded by forest, and near the center of the lake, he saw a dark figure and decided to start heading towards that figure. As he took that first step in the direction of the figure, he started to hear this melody, and we described that to him and what he heard, and as he got closer and closer, the melody grew stronger and stronger, and so did his feelings of determination and vigor. Eventually, it gave him like a real sense of what Icewind Dale is, and gave her a greater appreciation for it. My plan is to have this come into play a little bit more, especially with maybe like the Netherese stuff, and have it tied to some of the Netherese objects or history. I'm not exactly sure how I want that to play in, but I do want some of the NPCs to maybe go around town humming this tune that Jack knows. Anyway, Jack continues to get closer and closer to the figure, and just as he's about to be able to make out the figure's features, the dream fades, and he wakes up like feeling that same feeling, and as he's awake, he can still hear the melody for a second, and then it finally fades away. Quark happened to be on duty at the time, so Jack talked to him a little bit about that, and then he told the rest of the party the next morning, and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And this kind of like renewed his energy, basically to stop corruption and the oppression in 10 towns, which is Jack's motives right now. And Roary was like, oh yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of fun. After they got back to Brynn Shander, they discussed with Garn and his friends the future of Clan Battlehammer and their ingot cells. They went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and went and found Dannika. So she asked them immediately about the iron ingots. They told their story, what had happened. She also mentioned that she had heard rumors of Chwingas and Targos. Dannika is the party's patron, who's basically just a quest giver to get things going. So she reminded them about the Chwingas and Targos. She also mentioned that the speaker of Easthaven seems to need some help with some things. There's been some break-ins in their town hall, and the party could maybe help out with that if they're interested. My party asked about like corruption in the city because they've just been reinvigorated with trying to out all corruption. She mentioned the Order of Oral and how they seem to be gaining power in the towns, and they don't seem to be the most straight-laced. She also hands a letter to Tavar that she received from a man in a hood. It's from Hlin Trollbane, who is a member of the Arctic Blades, and so is Tavar. It's basically a special forces type group that both are a part of. Hlin was a part of this a long time ago, and the letter basically just says, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Please come meet me at the Northlook as soon as you can. And the letter was handed to Dannika by a hooded figure. That hooded figure is the one that my party ran into and really gave a hard time to the Northlook in the first session. So the hooded figure works with Hlin a lot, and that's how she got the information about Tavar. So hands the letter to Tavar. Tavar reads it in secret. It's like, okay, I know where I'm headed. And the whole party goes that way. As the party heads out, Kaima hangs back a little bit and just asks Dannika what she knows about hags. So Kaima's parents made a deal with a hag in order to have Kaima, and she wants to get as much information as she can in order to help break that deal or figure a way out for her parents. Dannika says she isn't an expert, but she has a book that she can lend to Kaima, and Kaima actually can't read. So Dannika gives her some info from the hags, from the monster manual, so I just pulled out some snippets, and I sent that to my player in Discord, so that they have some information on hags. From there, they all head to the Northlook, and they find Hlin. She basically explains that there have been 3, well, now 4 murders in the 10 towns over the last month or so, and this is from the quest line that I found on Reddit. Links for that will be in the description below. You can also find it in my Notion notebook, which will also have a link in the description below. There have been these murders in 10 towns over the last month. There was one in the Northlook about a day or so ago, and she asked Scramsax, who is the patron over the Northlook, to leave the room untouched. She kind of gives all this information to the party and says, here's the key, head on up, take a look, let me know what you think. And they're like, well, why don't you come with us? And she's like, well, okay, sounds good. So she went up with them too. Unlocked the door, and where they find the body of Arlen, who is a human of wealth from Easthaven. They checked around, they found the ice dagger that's stuck in him, and there's a message in blood that basically says Arl won't be cheated. And they search around the room a little bit. It's pretty obvious that the ice dagger is what killed him. Inside the room that they see, there's like a little end table that's locked. Roary's just like, screw this, and just breaks it with her axe. And inside they find a ledger with payments to someone important in Easthaven. There's also his personal journal where he refers to himself in the third person, but also talks about Torga Icevein bullying him and trying to keep his trade down. So they've got a few little leads in this on who killed this person. They also found some messages offering him some exclusive contracts and protection in exchange for information. So there's some leads there. The other thing that they noticed is after the reading through this, they're like, this is weird. They checked the body again and rolled better this time, and they found a snowflake medallion in Arlen's pockets. So in my game, we're using this little snowflake symbol as the sign of the Order of Oral. So now my party's like, Uh-oh, that's not good. We get all that done, the party leaves, and I have them level up because I forgot to have them do it the night before. So we leveled up and we discussed what new fun stuff they got, and we ended our session there. Things for me to remember. Gabi, I need to remember the deal with Garn and Clan Battle Hammer that was started by Quark. We'll have to follow up with that in a little bit. It'll probably take a little while in-game for Gabi to get back, talk to the boss, and potentially get back. Or they may just run into the boss and everyone else later. I'm not sure exactly how I want that to go, but overall, really fun session. I'm excited to keep this going. It's been a lot of fun so far. Thanks a ton for watching. I appreciate it. Huge thanks to my patrons. You guys are the best. We'll catch you all in the next one.